Hello everyone. Back again with film recaps. In this video, I will recap one of a mystery thriller films from 2022, titled Arctic Void. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. The film opens with two best friends, Alan and Ray, who just arrived at an airport in Norway's Arctic. They're here to shoot an adventure show that Alan directs and Ray hosts. After some time of waiting, the two are picked up by a van and taken to their destination. They are dropped off a few hours later at a fishing port, where they're about to hop onto a tour boat. Upon their arrival at the port, they're greeted by a man named Sean, who they hired just 2 days ago to pose as a cameraman during their tour. Sean is also revealed to be an ex-army brat who has never done a travel show or any kind of that. Now that they're aboard, Alan, Ray, and Sean, along with the rest of the tourists, are greeted by a quirky tour guide named Jim. Jim is jolly, and the tourists who came from various countries seem delighted to listen to his introduction. Later, Ray finds Alan at the ship's dining area, and the two start talking about their project and why they came here from America. During their conversation, Ray's attention is drawn to lunchbox on the table that belongs to Sean, and opens it, revealing an elaborate sound equipment. Curious, Ray turns it on and puts on the headphone, where he hears whale sounds.
Don't turn it on. Come on.
Alan doesn't agree with Ray's action, but Ray even gets Alan to put it on to listen too. After only a few seconds, the two rush to put everything back into place shortly before Sean returns to the table. A few hours pass and Alan is in his cabin, texting his wife. It is revealed by his text that he had a fight with her, and he's been trying to apologize. But his messages go undelivered since there seems to be no service in the area. After that, the three men begin to shoot the intro for their show on the dock with Jim the tour guide.
Okay, I'm good.
Just as they wrapped up, Ray comes across a seagull with bloody eye sockets, and is a little creeped out but makes nothing of it.
You must be seeing things.
Ray then goes to find Alan, who is sitting at the bar looking a little glum, and tries to console him. But Alan only gets more annoyed, and tells him that the reason he's fighting with his wife in the first place, is because he's always away filming their show. Not long after, the two are interrupted when they hear a commotion outside. The rest of the tourists on the boat are watching the horrific sight of a walrus killing its calf in cold blood on top of an iceberg. They all stand there, shocked and horrified, including Ray, who had witnessed two strange things that day. To calm the atmosphere, Jim the tour guide summons his passengers to a barbecue out on the dock, where he explains to them that they're having local whale meat. While everyone else delves in, Ray tells Alan that he refuses to even try the whale meat because it's gross. After eating the whale meat, Alan announces that he's having stomach issues, and excuses himself to the bathroom. Ray then goes to the back of the boat to find Alan, and the two have a chat. Meanwhile, Sean is outside filming the tourists on the boat, and then all of a sudden, Sean looks around in bewilderment as he realizes that everyone has gone. As Ray and Alan return to the dock, they are confused to find it quiet, and the things that the other passengers have left behind. They try to find the rest of the passengers in every space on the boat. But none of them can be found. Ray, Alan and Sean converge, and Sean tells them that he has no idea of what happened. As Sean is searching in the engine room downstairs, he tries to use his phone to call for help but is unable to get reception. On the other side of the boat, Alan is standing alone on the dock. I'm not sure what's going on, but he suddenly starts coughing blood. Ray, on the other hand, is on the captain's deck, where he finds a comms radio and begins calling out for help. Unfortunately, he receives no response. Ray then picks up a binocular and tries looking out, where he finds land and a settlement not far from them. He finds Sean and informs him about the town he found not far away. The two start packing up and agree to set up a raft to get there. Meanwhile, Alan is still on his own on the dock. He picks up a camera that belonged to one of the tourists, and is rendered even more confused by the footage he found there. When Ray is about to ask him to come with on the raft, he finds a gash on Alan's throat that Alan himself appears to be unaware of. After patching up Alan's wound, the three step onto the raft and start heading for the town. Once they reach land, Sean suggests that they stay together, because he senses that something is off. The three men begin exploring the town, and find it completely empty with no one else in sight. They enter a building and stand around an empty swimming pool in bewilderment.
What is that?
The three of them suddenly hear strange noises coming from another room, and decide to look into it. As they venture along the empty halls, they find a dying stag inside one of the rooms, wounded and bleeding out of its mouth. They then resume their search around the town. At this point, they hear a noise coming from another building. They then find a TV displaying static waves, and Ray kicks it in frustration because he was hoping for something better. Alan suddenly starts groaning and collapses to the ground. He then rolls up one of the legs of his pants to reveal yet another gash. With Alan in such poor condition, Sean announces that they should continue exploring, and Ray comes with. Alan, however, tells them that he's going to stay there because he can't carry on with his wounds and worsening health. Some time after Ray and Sean left, Alan seems to be delirious. He begins walking outside the building, and keeps on walking until he's in the middle of nowhere, but all of a sudden, a polar bear approaches and it has gashes on his body as well. Luckily, instead of attacking Alan, the polar bear leaves him alone and walks away. What's behind all of those wounds has remained a mystery up to this point. On the other side of the town, Ray and Sean find what looks like an apartment building with lights coming from several of its windows. They excitedly enter it, thinking that someone might be inside. Sean and Ray split up, right before Sean hears music coming from one of the rooms. He enters it and finds a vinyl player playing, with no one inside the room. Meanwhile, Ray enters one of the rooms to find a hot bowl of soup left unattended on the table. He tries to process everything that's been happening, right when he hears and sees a flare shot up to the sky outside. He gets away from the building to check it out and finds Alan, looking bewildered and exhausted. Ray then takes him inside the building. Meanwhile, Sean opens the sound equipment inside his lunchbox and listens to it. It still isn't clear what exactly he's listening to, or why he does it. Back to Alan, his condition seems to have gotten worse. He takes out the camera he found on the boat again to resume viewing the video he saw earlier. He now discovers something that gives him more clarity as to what's going on. With what's left of his strength, he struggles to tell Ray about it, but is interrupted by Sean. Ray tells Sean that they should leave the town, and go back to where they were before as soon as possible, especially given Alan's condition. Sean appears to be opposed to the idea, claiming that it will take 4.5 hours to get there, and that they will be dependent on the weather. But Ray insists and tells him he's going to go out and look for some fuel for the boat. Therefore, Sean hands Ray the rifle he's been carrying before Ray goes, in case he encounters a bear. Now that Ray is gone, Sean approaches Alan with the lunchbox in hand, and puts the headphones on the weak Alan. As Sean begins to play the sounds from the box, Alan falls asleep. When Alan wakes up, he starts screaming in pain, and Ray returns just in time to help Alan. Amid his pain, Alan asks Ray to watch the recording on the camera he found. Ray does, and finds that in the video, Sean was recording on the dock the whole time when the people suddenly disappeared. Distraught by what he saw, Ray bolts outside the building in search of the truth from Sean behind this bizarre event.
Said you were in the bathroom. Where you hiding?
He manages to pin Sean down, until Sean yields and promises to tell him the truth. It is at this point that Sean confesses that he's a hired mercenary, who was sent to take on the trip just to film the capabilities of a supersonic weapon. He believes that people who are exposed to the radiation have been vaporized or have been affected in some way by the weapon. But he can't go into detail because he doesn't know what happened, and his field of view shifted, before he realized they were gone. Sean then explains that the device he carries inside the lunchbox serves as some sort of a protecting shield, that would render someone immune from the weapon's impact. Hence, the reason why Alan and Ray didn't disappear like the rest of the people on board was because they listened to the device earlier. However, Alan fell ill because he consumed the whale meat, which was contaminated by the radiation spread by the device. Sean also mentions that the device works as a safeguard, not a cure, so it won't be able to cure Alan at this time. Plus, he says that they were supposed to get him from the boat, but he can't reach them since the satellite phone they gave him didn't work. Ray listens with disbelief, shocked to hear that such a weapon could possibly exist. Later, Ray tends to Alan's wounds while encouraging him to stay awake, but Alan seems to have already come into terms with the fact that he's going to die. Ray then tells Alan to look at his family's photo and leaves the room. While Ray waits outside, Alan records a goodbye video for his wife and kids, where he tells his son to take care of his mother, and that he'll be home soon. After Alan is finished, he hands Ray his phone and tells Ray to make it home safe, so that he'd be able to show the video to Alan's wife and kids. With a heavy heart, Ray takes the phone and leaves him. However, uncertain that he himself is going to make it out alive, Ray puts the camera and some kind of evidence inside a waterproof bag and throws it out to the sea, hoping that someone else would find it. It is only at this point that Sean's employer message can be received by Sean, which informs him that they'll be there in 30 minutes. Upon hearing the news, Ray rushes to take Alan, saying that they will get home soon. Ray picks up Alan and carries him with a wheelbarrow.
I'm gonna tell him the truth. There's 2 survivors.
You better not fuck us.
They stop to rest inside a building, and after seeing the state that Alan's in, Sean tells them that he's going to go to the extraction point alone, and that he really hopes his employer would be able to do something about Alan's condition. Just a few seconds after Sean takes off, Alan takes his one last breath, and passes away in Ray's arms. Ray cries in grief and sorrow, not believing that their nature show project would end up this way. Meanwhile, Sean arrives at the extraction point, right when out of nowhere, he gets shot in the head and dies. Ray hears the gunshot and goes to pick up the rifle by his side in fear. Suddenly, the phone in the room rings. It is not revealed whether or not Ray decides to take the call. Well, the film leaves us with many plot points unresolved, including one major plot point. And the next scene shows the view of the waterproof bag floating on the ocean. Okay guys. That's all the recap for Arctic Void 2022. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video.